The root of therapy changes to diet. Like if there was one thing, would it be that, or what would it be for,
Well, it
especially for
starts
people that
there.
don't want to just take medication?
Yeah, it starts there. It's not the only component of it, but it's a foundational tool because every food we eat either feeds inflammation or fights it. It's an immunomodulator in some way. So it's definitely a central part of it. And then that's the question, okay, what's the right way to eat for me? Because I could name any healthy food under the sun, and what works for one person isn't necessarily the best way for the next person. So like, for example, eggs. I have people that do great with eggs. It's like wonderful, like nutrient dense food that I love. It has choline and omega fats and B vitamins, other B vitamins in the yolk, has clean protein, all that awesome stuff. Then some people have egg sensitivities to albumin, and it's not going to work for them. Same with even like vegetables that are like super nutrient dense, like sulforaphane, which supports the detox pathways and supporting methylation, like onions or garlic or Brussels sprouts or asparagus, work great for some people. Some people have FODMAP intolerance, where those fermentable sugars in those foods cause bloating and distension and pain. I could go on and on. Every food under the sun works great for one person and not for other, for a myriad of different reasons, not just food sensitivities, but biomechanical components to it, or things going on in their gut that's over consuming it, for FODMAPs, for example. So food is a central part. But the question is, what foods does your body love, and what foods does your body not love? And then what's the most targeted nutritional medicine that is relevant to your labs? So if I see something that is, for example, if someone has low T3, low thyroid hormone, but their T4 looks fine, their main thyroid hormone looks fine, their TSH looks fine, but we run a full thyroid panel and you see their low T3, their low total T3 and their low free T3 are low. And that's either functionally low or lab low. Well, 80% of that conversion happens in the liver and 20% happens in the gut. So you have to take liver health and gut health into play in there too. But a lot of foods that will help with conversion of the thyroid hormone is selenium-rich foods, because the liver makes an enzyme called 5' deiodinase, which basically takes off one of the iodine molecules of T4, making it into T3, and activates the thyroid hormone. So we work on selenium-rich foods and sulfur-rich foods that I mentioned too, and a lot of gut-supporting foods and liver-supporting foods to really get the body to convert its own T3. So instead of me just giving, an Armour thyroid or a Nature-Thyroid or a Cytomel or some sort of exogenous T3, I want to get the body to do it itself. And you can give your body the raw materials that it uses to convert T4 to T3 in a really specific way to that case. Does that always do everything that we need to? No. And that's why I say it starts with food. It's going to move the needle for you in the right direction. The question is, when we retest, is it like 50% better? Is it 40% better, or is it 100% better? If it's 50% better, okay, cool. Nutrition moved the needle in a positive direction, but you're not exactly where you need to be. So at that point, then maybe there is a place for exogenous T3, for example, or maybe supplementing with a higher doses of these nutrients where you're not getting it through foods solely. But it starts with food. And then from there, you can really target these things beyond food, that whatever is clinically relevant.
So you mentioned a new book that you're working on. What's it about? And let's focus on that for a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So it's called intuitive fasting. So fasting are different protocols of fasting are things that I've used clinically for the past decade, and something I've used in my own life for the past 20 years. There's a lot of research around it, and it's really amazing to see the conversation around fasting now. And so I wanted to write the book. I knew that I wanted to write a book for a while on fasting, because I talked about the concept of time restricted feeding and intermittent fasting and its benefits in both of my previous books. In Ketotarian, I talked about intermittent fasting, this whole section on it. In the inflammation spectrum, I talked about fasting for two different reasons. One, beta hydroxybutyrate ketone body is produced with a clean ketogenic diet and fasting. So that's what was this discussion in Ketotarian. And then inflammation spectrum, I talked about the anti-inflammatory benefits of fasting. So I wanted a deeper dive in this book, where it was just a deep dive in intermittent fasting. But as its name implies, intuitive fasting, I wanted a approach that I find really works well for people sustainably, where it isn't this arduous, punitive, dogmatic, obsessive thing. It's just born out of getting cues from your body and knowing what your body loves and what your body hates, and ebbing and flowing these vacillating eating and fasting windows to maintain and to first build metabolic flexibility. So people mostly are in this sugar burning mode with various degrees of them. They're hangry, they're fatigued, they have weight loss resistance, they have low testosterone, they have all these metabolic issues, and their blood sugar is all over the place. They're in various forms of predominantly sugar burning mode, meaning their body's providing their fuel through sugar, through the foods that they're eating. It's breaking down into sugar primarily, which is fine. We all are born partly there, but the goal is metabolic flexibility.